morning, noon, evening or night depending when you're watching this video, and welcome back to World of Tanks, the final episode of Light.17 to Light.18, and the time is finally there. This episode I will compare all the new tier 8 and the current tier 8 light tanks to conclude which ones are going to be recommended for strongholds, clan wars and team battles. And oh boy, what have I been busy with this one. Let me just first explain how I will come to my final conclusion. First of all, you might notice that I have excluded the T49, although it's quite a recommended tank for strongholds. The Durkin made this comparison a bit unrelatable. So as you can see, I have noted down every important aspect which light tank will have in competitive game modus. I have also took the effective values instead of the base values because you play competitive with good crew and good statistics, and I didn't realize that I was noting the effective values. But nevertheless, I also included some statistics outside tanks GG, which are the survivability rate, which you can find in your garage, as well as the camo rating and the camo rating after firing. Some of these values are more important than the other, but I took that in account, as you will see later on. Then the blue and red cells indicate the tanks with the best and worst rating in their specific statistics. Whoa, that's a bit of a tongue breaker. Specific statistics. No. And in the bottom is a display of the amount of best and baddest characteristics the tanks have, which has also brought an interesting conclusion at its own. So you can see that the RU has a very high good ratio to low bad ratio, while the AMX 3090 has it otherwise. The rest of the light tanks got pretty much an equal amount of good and bad aspects. And this is also apparent in the notes of the new light tanks, where again the autoloader has the more bad than good, but the Bulldog is now like the RU with a high good ratio to low bad ratio, which gave me already some more hopes for the Bulldog. And again, the other tanks stayed with an equal amount, but that was just a side note, although I will bring that along anyway. So now things start to get a bit more complicated. So what I've done here is took the average of all the earlier called statistics per update. So in 9.17 the average is taken from the 3090 RU lightweight, WZ and Black Dog, and from 9.18 the average is taken from the BERT, HWK, LTTB, Bulldog and WZ to get an equal number of tanks on both sides. And I implanted the percentage which aspect was nerfed or buffed. So let's take a look around the most interesting buffs and nerfs. So we can see that the average DPM got a nerf of 7%, which was quite apparent already. We can see a huge decrease in DPM, even with the faster reload on the Bulldog has the Black Dog better DPM. But once more there is a decrease in DPM. And what is also surprisingly that the average damage got massively nerfed by 70%. And I didn't even took the absurd damage of the T49 in account. The average shell velocity got surprisingly buffed with 10%. The average aim time got buffed with 7%, which is quite nice, with a tiny nerf in the normal dispersion, but it's balanced by the buff in the movement and traverse dispersion with 10%. The average depression got also a slight buff of 6%, and due to the loss of the 80 km/h speed of the RU, the average speed is nerfed with 4%. But then we got that massively buffed trademark power to weight ratio with an insane 46%, as all effectiveness on terrain gets buffed mainly on hard and medium terrain around 10%. Also the loss of the great lightweight, the average survivability rating is down with a whopping 20%. And also the view range as well as the camouflage got nerfed. With these average numbers you will get a nice picture about the general comparison between the current tier 8s and the new tier 8s. I still haven't answered the question which light tank is recommended for strongholds, clan wars and team battles. I will come to that eventually, just I have to explain the weird numeric rating I gave them. So bear with me now. In the normal conditions of this rating, and the new light tank will gain 1 point if their personal rating comes close to the average of the current light tank, so the ones from the 9.17 list. When the personal rating is higher than the average of the current tanks, it will gain 2 points. And if the tank has a rating which is, listen closely, higher than the average plus the difference between the average of the 9.17 and 9.80 tanks, it will gain 3 points. So the difference between the 9.70 and the 9.18 ratings get add up to the 9.17. If the tank got a higher personal rating than that, it will gain 3 points. When a cell is yellow, it will mean that the aspects are more important than usual in competitive games, and the points will range from 2, 3 and 4. When it's orange, it means that the aspect is less important than usual, with points ranging from 1 and 2 only. So, got it? Probably not. So let me just take one short example. So we can see that the DPM is yellow, and we see that the average of the current 9.17 vehicles is 2106. The LTTBs is 2086, which come close, which will give it 2 points. The Bulldog has 2127, which is slightly above, which gives it 3 points. And the Black Dog has 2275, which gives him 4 points due to average, which is 2106, plus the difference between the averages of 9.17 and 9.80, which is 2106 minus 1958 equals 158. Add those together and you will get 2254, which is lower than the Black Dog's DPM. And I gave more points to the Black Dog because it's currently a very good tank for stronghold, so extra points for him. Giving all the needed points, we'll finally come to the ranking of the new light tanks. At number 6 with 18 points, it's the BERT. At number 5 with 24 points, it's the HWK. On the shared first place with both 27 points, the LTTB and the WZ. On second place with 29 points, it's the Black Dog. And number 1 with a staggering 38 points, leaving the rest into the dust, the Bulldog. So this is the final ranking, but what do the points exactly tell us? Just to finalize, I will give my final conclusions about tanks, beginning with the BERT. So the BERT lost the needed burst damage. Still got good camo, but because there are better options with the needed camo accessories, this tank is not recommended for strongholds or any competitive game mode. The HWK lost its top speed trademark of 80. Also it lost some DPM and the already worse survivability. View range and dispersion is not going to do it, so it's also not recommended for strongholds or any competitive game mode. The WZ lost some DPM and dispersion, but with increased mobility and a small increase in survivability somehow, this tank can be recommended for strongholds. The LTTB lost the epic survivability and also some penetration. It still got a good gun and armor, but it only works as an active scout hunter. That is a job for strongholds or competitive game mode, so it can be recommended. The Black Dog, with the still superbly DPM and top speed, this tank is still greatly recommended in strongholds. The Bulldog hasn't got the T49 as a resemblance, but it's still good with DPM, gun handling and mobility. Via this analysis, this is the number 1 go-to tank for strongholds. Note that damage output and camo is a downside, but that can be prevented. To be short, the BERT and HWK are not recommended for competitive. The LTTB and WZ can be useful, but I think the main competitive tank will be the Bulldog and Black Dog. So those are my final conclusions. Hopefully you gain some useful information from this series. The only thing I'm still struggling with is the fact that the Bulldog came out better, which I honestly did not expect. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be equal or better than the Black Dog, but maybe that will be another episode worth to cover when I play some games in those tanks, because I have both of them. So maybe I can finalize which one is the most recommended by doing some gameplay in them. But that's all for it now. I will see you next time. Laters!